Off and running here on another edition of Picks and a Roll. You got Sean Brayson, Sixers Insider for the Gambler, Sean Barnard, and a great weekend of NBA action. Hashtag this league. But on top of all of that nonsense, putting the drama to the side, Sixers are doing exactly that, taking care of business. They held the Hornets, a professional basketball team, some would say, to 82 points on Saturday. This team is locked in right now. That's the way I'm seeing it. Also, you have to be honest with your evaluation as the league as a whole. There's a lot of bad teams, and the Hornets and the Pistons are exactly that. Bulls, 11-point dogs tonight versus the Sixers on the road at the Wells Fargo Center. We'll dive deep into that game and, of course, hit the other 10 games on the DraftKings board here on Picks and Roll. Sean Bernard, how was your weekend, sir?
Yeah, it was a great weekend. Great weekend of sports. A lot of fun going on, and these Sixers are absolutely taking care of business. So the point differential in the last 4 games at over 150 points there. The 5 game stretch, the biggest point differential in NBA history for any 5 game stretch. Some of that is absolutely correlated to the level of competition these Sixers are facing. But nonetheless, I don't want to hear people using that as an excuse. The bottom line is they are taking care of business. They're doing what they're supposed to, and they're absolutely burying teams in a way that we have not seen in past years. So very happy with what I'm seeing from the Sixers and think that trend continues tonight.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I won't lie to you. Like, I was kind of surprised to see that double-digit number there this evening against the Bulls. So let's bring that up right from the jump here. Sixers are 18-7 ATS, kicking butt and taking names all across the board. We understand what they're capable of, but from the standpoint of the Chicago Bulls, let's dive deep into what they have going on. This team 10-17 on the year. They're 12-14 ATS, 16-10 to the total, to the over. Last time out was on 2 nights ago on Saturday as well. They took on the Miami Heat, went back to back against the Heat, split there Saturday night. They suffered a 2-point loss, but did cover that number. I don't know. I just thought would think that this number would be somewhat, I guess, under double digits. I did. All right. So now we're
Mhm.
seeing 11.5. That's definitely the odds maker saying Sixers are absolutely beast at this point in time. But are the Chicago Bulls that bad in your mind?
They're going to be the best team the Sixers have played during this stretch, but they're by no means a contender or really in that conversation at this point. And as has become the case with the NBA nowadays, I do want to start with the injury standpoint from the Bulls' perspective here. Alex Caruso listed as questionable with a sprained left ankle. Torrey Craig is doubtful with a sore right heel. And then Zach LaVine and Lonzo Ball, of course, are remaining out. Those guys have, Lonzo has not played all year and is likely to miss the entire year. Zach LaVine, it sounds like a couple more weeks until he gets back on the floor. So they're going to be shorthanded. The Bulls team have been weird this year, that we know all the trade rumors. We know all kind of the drama behind the scenes. This team has been underperforming for years at this point. I do hope Caruso plays tonight because I would like to get a real look at him from a guy that is very much in the trade conversations and is being talked about like he will fetch the greatest return out of anybody on the Bulls, which is interesting, but is obviously tied to that contract and the value that comes with it. So I'm hoping that he does play tonight just from the Sixers perspective to get a better look at him. The bottom line is I do think this Sixers team is playing their best basketball, that they're ready to take care of business, and I do think it carries into this one as well.
Yeah, the Bulls, we know the names that they have. DeRozan, really good. Vucevic, of course, former Sixer here. The Sumo has been a complete downgrade this year. I thought that that's a kid that would have had a step up in the right direction. Who knows what's happening behind the scenes there in Chicago? I guess the big question mark about this game is, are we worried about the Andre Drummond revenge factor? Andre Drummond revenge factor. Is that what's going through our mind from gambler side? Nah, I kid. Again, I just think we have to be honest with our evaluation, right? When it comes to wagering on this game, it's 11 points. Sixers are strong. They're handling business. They're at home. Joel Embiid, if he goes, and you're going to get that same, like we brought up with the Pistons on Friday, if you get that same effort that we have seen, then of course we are believers that this team can win by double digits here. But we know that it doesn't work like that in the NBA. These guys are all professionals on both sides. Chicago Bulls do have some names there. So is this a spot where maybe the odds makers are giving a little bit more praise to the 76ers than what they deserve at this point in time? Like I said, I could see this number being at nine,
Yeah.
nine and a half, 11. It was at 11 and a half earlier this morning. I would imagine money will come in on the Sixers, or maybe will come in the Bulls, and that number will come down a little bit. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I still like the Sixers to take care of business. That I don't think this Bulls team is dangerous enough on either side of the floor. As much as obviously the talent of the opposing teams is a factor in the Sixers blowing these teams out of the water, the bottom line is they have looked to be that good, that they are sticking to their game plan, they are executing to the fullest extent, and that is what producing this results. I do think that this carries into tonight. I just think this Bulls team is not connected enough or has the top end talent to run with the Sixers team right now. It is surprising me. I thought it would be a little smaller than the 11 number, but I still honestly think these Sixers are going to cover it. That right now they've been a cover machine, they've been a winning machine, and none of the games have been close. I don't think the Bulls are the team that breaks that streak. At home in Philadelphia, I think the Sixers take care of business once again. And I think this has potential to be a game that is over within 3 quarters. And perhaps Joel Embiid has his 10th game of the season in which he's not playing in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was a 10 straight game that Embiid went at least 30 and 10,
Yep.
which is an ongoing franchise record. And man, it's just crazy to see what he's able to do when he goes out there and just dominate. And he's better than what he was last year, which
Big
I
time.
think is really flooring a lot of people in the NBA, fans in general. But um, as far as matchups are concerned, anything down low to worry you, to limit Joel Embiid, to slow Joel Embiid? I saw somebody trying to pitch the idea that the Charlotte Hornets were going to be that team.
It's
That
getting
was a bad,
buried for that take,
yeah.
too.
That was a shit take, as we like to say. I have to edit that one later. No, bottom line is that it was a bad take, and Joel Embiid is just a dominating force right now. There's no way I'm taking the under on anything. His player prop in this game here this evening, right now on DraftKings Sportsbook, here when we are going live, Sean Bernard and myself at 34.5. Any chance you would look at the under on that one?
No chance. There's some things you just should not do in life, and one of those is bet the under on Joel Embiid. That on any night, the efficiency he's playing with. I mean, in that last game against the Hornets, for starters, it's very poor logic to compare Joel Embiid to other centers because he's just a different animal. When you look at the talent that he has compared to really a pretty weak talent class in terms of centers, there's obviously Jokic, there's obviously guys like Bam Adebayo, Domantas Sabonis, and guys like that. But then there's a significant drop off. So using the logic of the Hornets not giving up 30 points to a center, there's not a lot of centers that are capable of scoring 30 points. And Joel Embiid is certainly one of them. And a point that I do want to make on Joel is when you talk about him in the scheme of all these great players across the NBA, and when we begin to dip into these MVP conversations, the minutes per game of Joel Embiid is pretty shocking. That on the season, he's playing 33.9 minutes per game. When you look at a guy like Luka Doncic, 36.8 minutes per game. Giannis, 34.8 minutes per game. Shea, 35 minutes per game. Kevin Durant, 36.6. So about 3 full minutes per game lesser than each of these other MVP candidates and still putting up really better numbers. I mean, that game against the Hornets, shooting 18 of 23 from the field, 41 points in 29 minutes. That's absurd efficiency. So it really is special stuff that's going down. I would not recommend betting against the Joel Embiid under at any point.
All right. Anything from Chicago Bulls standpoint? I know, like, I'm thinking that this is going to be a high scoring game no matter what. That total at 227. If I'm taking that, I'm going to go into the overs. We'll get into the 230 mark, somewhere around there. But as far as from the Chicago Bulls perspective, anybody that is catching your attention from maybe a player point total or assists, rebounds, anything from the Bulls?
Yeah, my favorite bet in this game is actually probably on Kobe White of the Bulls. I love his combos. I hate the points, rebounds, and assists right now. The line's currently set at 31.5 at minus 160. That's too juiced for me. I think you have to take the alternate line and get that at least closer to plus money. Minus 160 is a little too tough for me to swallow. But when you look at what Kobe White has done over the past few games, for starters, he scored 19 or more points in each of the last 10 games. And some of these stat lines against the Heat on December 14th, he had 26 points, 11 assists, 7 rebounds. Against the Heat the game after, 22 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. He's had a couple double-doubles, been flirting with them on a pretty much nightly basis. That is the true driving force in my mind why Zach LaVine should be the guy shop. That Kobe White is having this leap, this emergence. He's looked every bit the player was hoped to be when he came out. A little bit of a slow developmental track for Kobe White, but he's playing some really good hoops right now. To see that combo at 31.5 is way too low for me. I think he's going to be in the 40 range, and he is getting major minutes. That when you look at the minutes per game, 39, 40, 45, 39, 38, 40, 45. He's going to get the opportunity to do it. He's been very productive. So I think Kobe White's a guy that you go to in the betting market today.
Excellent stuff. Any comments, questions, concerns, please go ahead and fire them our way at Fox PHL Gambler, streaming on all platforms. All right, Sean, let's keep it moving. From the Sixers, next game up on a DraftKings card, as I said, 11 games total here. Let's talk about the Rockets and Cavs. Rockets back-to-back, just lost. I think they had a 5-game win streak going into last night, if I'm not mistaken. Really one of the surprising teams in the NBA, if not the most surprising team, right? Didn't you say the most surprising team is the Houston Rockets in your mind?
Yeah, I would say that's the biggest surprise for me so far this year.
Yeah, they're putting it together. And it's not to say that they didn't play well last night against the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks were just destined to find a way to win that game. Number came down. Houston was being bet pretty hard. That came down 2.5 points. I think it dipped as low as 6.5 last night against the Bucks. Bucks ended up winning by 9. I thought that was just a little bit too low there. Here they are back-to-back on the road against the Cleveland Cavs. A lot of question marks about the Cavs right now. I'm seeing some trade rumors out there, some big names being discussed. Something to keep our eyes on. I'm sure Daryl Morey's made a few phone calls there to Cleveland. I'm sure there's a couple players that would fit nicely with the Sixers. But here we are tonight. Cavs are 4-point favorites at home. 2:15 is the total in this one, 7:10 p.m. tip. Cavs at home, back-to-back for the Rockets. I think I'm going to lean towards Cleveland on this one. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I lean toward Cleveland as well. We're starting to see a little bit of a slowdown from Alperen Şengün from the Rockets side of things, that he kicked off the season as looking like one of the best straight-up big men in the NBA. The way that he was able to be that offensive hub, be the primary distributor, he hasn't quite been as productive, and honestly, I think it's been impacting him on both sides of the ball. That at his best, he's not an elite defender by any definition, but he is a guy that can hang. I haven't seen as much of that lately. And when you look at a supersized team like the Cavs, who have Evan Mobley and Jared Allen and are comfortable pounding the ball inside, I think that could be an issue against this Rockets team. The Cavs have been a weird one this year, that I was starting to buy what they were selling, the way that they were connecting. They went on a little win streak where I believe it was 4 games in a row where they beat the Pistons, the Magic, the Heat, and then the Magic again. And then they've kind of lost a nice streak of games. They are coming off a win against the Hawks, 127-119. That game was on Saturday. I think they keep that going and find a win in this one. I think the Rockets are getting a little bit, and this happens with young teams naturally, that they having a bit of a reality check where they're not quite as legitimate as they looked at the start of the year. They're going to be fine. They're still on the right path for sure. But I think this is a matchup where the Cavs can continue bringing them down to earth.
All right. Yeah, I think I'm going to roll with the Cavs on this one. It's just the Houston Rockets back-to-back, and the Cavs are desperate. They got to find a way to win this game. It's 4 points. I think that's a little telling there. If you made me make a play, I would go with the Cavs on that one. All right, another 7-10 tip. We got 3 of them. Let's go to Indiana, a team that was just rolling red hot. I think they've lost a couple straight, if I'm not mistaken, 3 straight.
Yeah.
And here we are now, still question marks with Halliburton. He did not practice yesterday. They're at home taking on one of the hottest teams in the game, the LA Clippers, who have a 7-game win streak, which is their longest winning streak in 8 seasons. Again, we know when you go up against the Pacers, you better be scoring in bunches. But with no Halliburton, I have to lean towards the Clippers on this one. It's a 3.5-point spread. It's a low number. I think the Clippers can get out there and get a victory no matter who's in the lineup for the Pacers. But no Halliburton, it's not a question for me. 246, that high total on that one. I'll put that to the side. Give me the Clips, though, to continue that win streak, stay hot with no Halliburton. If a Halliburton's playing, definitely no play for me. Your thoughts?
Yeah, totally agree with all that there. And I do trend toward the Clippers pretty much regardless, even if Halliburton is in. That number has creeped up a little bit. That was at -3 in favor of the Clippers when I looked at it this morning. So moving in that direction, that could be an indication of Halliburton's status. He is the guy that is that much of a difference maker for this Pacers team. He's the primary decision maker. He's the guy who sets the tone as far as the pace of play, who makes those long passes, the outlet passes to create fast breaks. So it's a completely different look as an offense if he's not in there. And this run by the Clippers, these are real deal victories. They beat the Warriors twice during this stretch. They beat the Nuggets. They beat the Kings. They beat the Knicks in commanding fashion, a 22-point victory in that one. So some really impressive wins. The James Harden honeymoon period has kicked in for Los Angeles, that he's playing his best ball. He's really being the guy that is, captaining the offense and running the show, building the tempo, the good version of James Harden that we're also familiar with here in Philadelphia, that there are the ups and downs of James Harden. Right now, they're on a hot streak, and when he's playing that quality of basketball, it's fun to watch and very effective. So we're starting to see that. Kawhi Leonard, by the way, has not gotten enough shine for how good that he has been this season. That no, he's not what he once was, but when you look at the stats for this year, some pretty absurd stuff. From the three-point line, he's shooting 44.1% on the season, 51.4 on the year, in that 40-50-90 club, and a guy who's averaging 24 points per game. he's been really good. And you can tell that there's these flashes where he has that locked in and that look in his eye once again. It's been a couple years since I've really seen that from him. So that is good to see. And that does make me believe in this Clippers team a little more than I was at the start of the season.
I know that it's really like you got to be careful when you start talking about defense in the NBA, but Clippers in a tough possession. Again, it's just Kawhi Leonard leading the charge. That dude's a beast on defense. He's just
Yeah.
so tough, and he's just so long and rangy and big and built. And look, you need more than just having size to be a guy who's defensive player of the year or the all defensive team as many times as he has been. You got to know how to play defense, right? And he's just put himself in his right position. You can't get around him. So if you don't have somebody that's able to go head to head with size, I'll give the advantage to Kawhi Leonard all day. I like the Clippers in this one as well. I have no issues, and I'm looking at them right now, but Halliburton is the big one, so we'll see what happens there. Definitely Clippers are playing for real. I know there's some people out there talking about a possible run this year. We've been there and done that. I get it. They're a lot like the Sixers, right? In my mind, they are, where it's get to the playoffs and we'll have that same conversation we've had for the past few years.
Yeah, and some similar ties from the injury standpoint that we have not seen Joel Embiid have a healthy playoff run. We haven't seen this Clippers team have a healthy playoff run with Kawhi and Paul George together. It's honestly been really disappointing because you do see the flashes that when they are both there and healthy and playing at their best, Paul George and Kawhi are both very good basketball players. And Kawhi has proven to be a guy capable of being an alpha male number one option on a championship team. I do think if the cards fall in the right direction, that this Clippers team could be a potential contender and has a chance to make a deep playoff run. But when you look at the history and the track record, that's not a great bet to make, as both of these guys have some serious injury issues and just some really unlucky stretches. I do think that's why the James Harden trade was ultimately made, is he's a guy that, for all his flaws, he is a floor raiser, a guy that can steer the ship and keep an offensive afloat even without those two on the floor. I'm also a little intrigued by the James Harden combo tonight of the points, rebounds, and assists at 30.5. As I mentioned, I think he's been doing a much better job of late just controlling the tempo of that team, and they're following his lead as far as the direction of the offense. So I think 30.5 is a little low. He's getting in his bag a little more. He's getting more comfortable. I do think that this is the James Harden honeymoon period that we should be capitalizing on from a betting perspective.
Excellent stuff. All right, next game up on the DraftKings board. And so far, the theme for me, and it's definitely, look, last week, best NBA week I've had in quite some time.
We're hot on the sticks.
No lie. That last week was just seen as clear as day. Windex. And a lot had to do with the fact that we got some bad basketball teams, right? And at the top of the list is a team that's lost 23 straight, and it's the Detroit Pistons. Now, this is where the rub is. They're a bad basketball team, but so are the Atlanta Hawks. And the Atlanta Hawks are given 11. So where's that middle ground? Is it in between 11? Because that's kind of where my mind is. But there is no way in hell I'm putting a hard-earned dollar that I worked my ass off to make on the Detroit Pistons. So I got nothing for you on this game. Complete stay away. I'm going to sit back and hope to see the Pistons get to 24. I think that's hysterical. But Atlanta Hawks are 11-point favorites, 246. Where are you at, Sean?
Yeah, this is more of a gut pick than anything. I do think the Pistons plus 11 is kind of the way to play it. I don't think the Hawks are that good. And frankly, this is more of just like one of these games the Pistons have to find a way to win. That they're not going to go 2-80. I looked at their season-long win total for the year. That has dropped to 9.5 on the season, which is just brutal. You have to think they find a way to at least win. As much as they played brutal, and there's obviously a ton of issues with this team, there's still some guys that are talented. The Azur Thompson, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren's going to be coming back. They have guys that they shouldn't be as bad as they are. I ultimately think they figure it out to some extent. It's tough to make a case for the Pistons based on how they've played, but this more comes from the lack of belief in this Hawks team. And I just think that one of these games, they're going to kind of have a lucky break where they hit a ton of shots and find a way to win. So I do think the plus 11 was the way I would play this. I'm too scared on the plus 425 on the money line. I do think that they're going to win a game soon, and this feels like a likely candidate, but tough to talk yourself into this Pistons team at all right now.
All right, let's keep it moving. No wasting time there. Let's talk about, which I'm sure if you were to ask 99 NBA fans in Philadelphia right here, right now, if you were to go downtown and say, who is the number one seed right now in the Western Conference, I'll say 90 people would not be able to say the Minnesota Timberwolves. I just don't think that Yeah, I honestly don't think a lot of people are paying attention to the West, number one, and it's such a shock to the system. But here we are, overall number one seed, 19-5 in the West, only behind the Boston Celtics for the best record in the NBA, who are 20-5. Tonight, they are on the road in Miami, and this is an interesting number here. Miami Heat plus 1.5, T-Wolves 1.5 favorite on the road, 740 tip, 217 total on DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm going to ride with the home Heat here. Maybe a little of that Miami cooking got Minnesota's best effort last night. Maybe they went out a little bit, caught some games. Who knows? I believe the Dolphins were in town. They were. They took on the Jets. Who knows? I'm going to look at the Heat this evening. I like the Heat at home, catching 1.5. Where are you at in this one?
Yeah, I lean towards the Timberwolves that I still think they get the win. Probably my favorite way to play this is I like the under of 217, a pretty low under based on today's NBA, but I do think this is going to be a rock fight. The Timberwolves have the best half-court defense in the NBA, and the Heat are a team that are not have a ton of scoring firepower to just keep around. That they are a team that go through stretches where they have struggles to score. They obviously have guys, the Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, who's been very good this year, Jaime Jaquez, who's been phenomenal this past stretch, and of course Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. So they have guys that can score, but they're not a team that is just kind of overflowing with offensive production. And the Timberwolves really make life hard. I will say that I did see Anthony Edwards listed as a game time decision. That will obviously play a huge factor in how I feel about the overall Timberwolves versus Heat outcome. But I do think the under is the way that I would play this. And I think this is a game that has even a chance to stay under 200 total and give an old score box score by the end of this one.
All right. Yeah, as far as that game is concerned, last time that they did play was I believe October, and Minnesota got the best and won by 16. That game being played in Minnesota. So here we are. Fast forward. Let's talk about next game up on our card, the Hornets and the Toronto Raptors, another bad basketball team. Toronto not as good either. They are 10-15 on the season. Tonight, DraftKings Sportsbook showing us right now that it's 11-point spread. Another one of those spots where I think I got more confidence in Detroit keeping it close versus the Hawks rather than the Hornets, but it's 11-point spread. I know they got to travel north of the border, but they've had some time to recap. Charlotte's a really bad basketball team. I think they're worse than Detroit. Just another number that I'm staying away from altogether. Where are you at, Sean?
Yeah, I lean the same way. Hornets coming off an absolute being demolished by the Sixers in that one, an over 50-point victory, and one where, frankly, from start to finish, there was zero chance on that. There's nobody listed as injured outside of the LaMelo Ball situation with the Hornets, so we'll have their full squad, but don't know if that makes that much of a difference for that one. Scary Terry also always has a chance of getting hot and can keep them in a game, but if he doesn't do that, they pretty much just lack the firepower. Brandon Miller has been fine. I haven't figured out what to make of this Raptors team yet, but I think them being kind of just in this middle tier is still significantly above the Hornets. So I do think the Raptors ultimately get the win and cover. This isn't a game I recommend circling on your watching schedule tonight, but I do think I lean towards the Raptors minus 11, and I'm staying away from basically anything with this Hornets team at this point in time.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right. Tonight's the night, right? John Morant making his return to the playing court tonight.
Is he?
Is tonight the night, the 25th? I thought tonight he was making his start.
I'm gonna do a Google. I did not think. I believe to the bench. I don't think he's playing yet. 25 games. It was 25 game suspension. Is this game 26? I don't believe so.
Did I get that wrong? I thought tonight because he did a press conference last night. I thought it was due to kick the damn week off that Morant was.
This will be the last game he misses. So
Okay.
next game. So he is back with the team, practicing, participating, doing media. He's all doing that, but he's still going to be out for this one.
All right. Well, that one. Anyways, Oklahoma City and Memphis then double-digit spread here as well. We got a couple double-digit spreads this evening. This is at 10.5. OKC. Memphis has been terrible. I thought they were going to put up a little bit of a fight on Friday night. Wasn't the case, and I'm just not too. I don't think anything's going to be different tonight against OKC in this one. Again, double-digit spread. I'll stay away. Anything for you on this one, Sean?
Yeah, I like the OKC to win and cover. OKC is the real deal, man. And I mean, Shea is legitimate in that MVP conversation, putting up some absurd numbers. That game winner against the Nuggets was one of the more mature and impressive basketball plays that he's been doing this. It's no secret that SGA is the real deal at this point, but just like the composure, and he's now growing into one of those guys like I got this. Like, you put the ball in my hand and I'm making it happen. And he has. The track record proves that. Also, Chet Holmgren playing unbelievable as well. He's looking like that true number 2 star in the way that they believed. I do think that this is a big win for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think I might play around with the Chet Holmgren 3-pointers at over 1.5 plus 154. That feels way too high of a payout in my mind. And he's a guy who, as I mentioned, I'm very high on from a efficiency standpoint, playing winning basketball and really growing into the sidekick that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander needs. So very impressed by then. I don't mind the points of 30.5 for SGA there. That's something that's intriguing to me as well. I think OKC is pretty much the play. I think the Grizzlies take their lumps for this final game, and then next game with Ja back is when they start to get back on track. I am buying the stock of the Grizzlies to go on a run and win a couple games and get back in the conversation, but I don't think it starts tonight.
All right, next game up. Let's talk about two teams that have something more at stake here. Now, no Kyrie Irving. He's been officially listed out. I think he's going to miss his 5th straight game in a walking boot. But Luka out there, triple-double last time he took the court against Portland tonight, taking on the reigning champions in Denver. Denver is a 7.5-point home favorite, 230.5, 9-10 tip on this one. Immediately, the vibe I was getting was Denver minus 7.5. I don't know. I'm kind of talking myself into Dallas. I need to marinate a little bit more on this one, but Dallas might be a play here at plus 7.5. Again, Luka's playing lights out. He's got Dallas playing really well, believing, and they continue to win. So why not? This is a tough test. Probably going to get the best effort here. Dallas did not. Last time Dallas played was Portland on Saturday night. Yeah, I think I'm going to take the points here. I go plus 7.5 again. I'm going to marinate on this one a little bit here, but if you maybe make a selection right now, give me the Mavs. Where do you stand, Sean?
Yeah, I'm on the same side of you that I like the Mavs plus 7.5. I am buying into the Mavericks this year. My biggest concern with this matchup specifically is no Derek Lively for the Mavericks, which I think is a very valuable weapon in their offense, having that lob threat, that guy who makes a ton of winning plays. He's been better than the box score indicates. Big fan of what Derek Lively has brought to this team. But I did just want to highlight Luka Doncic specifically, that I think this month of December has been arguably his most impressive month in the NBA. That just in December this year, he's averaging 36.4 points per game, 9 rebounds, 12.1 assists, and shooting 48.6 from the field, almost 36% from 3. He is in that MVP category, absolutely. And as we kind of dig into this race, I truly think the list right now is the usual candidates with Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, Giannis. Then I think it's SGA, and I think it's Luka. And I think that's the list for the MVP race right now. I think it's between those 5 guys. You can make a strong case for each of them, but Luka is playing incredible and elevating this Mavericks team around him. I like the way that they've built out this roster. I keep bringing him up, but Grant Williams, I think, is like a phenomenal fit for what they need him to do and is delivered. And also the Nuggets coming off just their second home loss of the season in that game where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander hit that game winner. So a little bit of a sour taste in their mouth. I ultimately think the Mavs just keep this one close, cover the plus 7.5. I think the Nuggets probably win outright, but I think this is going to be a ball game.
He's plus 400 to win the MVP right now. Luka, 35.5 player point total on DraftKings Sportsbook right here, right now. Player combos, PRAs, holding steady at 55.5. Anything for you, Luka. I bring that up because we know you're going to get his best game, but this is definitely a game that in his mind he's competing against, of course. You know what Joker is, back-to-back MVPs, not last year, just went on. There's a lot at stake in this game this evening. You're going to get the best of Luka, and especially without Kyrie. Anything for you on this one, 55.5 with the PRAs?
Yeah, that's a lot. I struggle to take that. I probably look in the 3-point direction. I think the over 3.5 at minus 110 would be the way that I bet this. He's gonna get volume up from 3-pointer. That's just the nature of Luka Doncic. That step back truly is lethal. I think he can knock down 4 threes and we'll get the opportunity for it. So 55.5 feels a little strong with me. The points I feel better about than the combos at 35.5. That's still a ton of points, but I do think he can deliver on that. And by the way, Nikola Jokic not playing his best ball of late. So I do think that there's a good chance for Luka to want to come in and prove things. And I think he's going to have a chance to do it. I think I would rank these. I would bet them as the Doncic 4 threes, the over 3.5 at minus 110, then the points, then the combos as far as my level of confidence in them.
He went 4 for 12 in 3-point attempts against Portland on Saturday night, 2 for 7, 3 for 10 in his previous 2. Luka's averaging 9.1 assists this year. It's just crazy. So for Luka to win the MVP, what has to happen? I think team success has to be there. right?
Yeah.
Do we believe that? Like, is that it's got to go hand in hand. Dallas right now, third seed, 16-9, dealing with Kyrie Irving's injuries. They're playing really well right now. He's definitely like I would look at him more than Joker at this point in time for
Yes.
everything you just listed. And just the numbers that he's throwing up. It's ridiculous. A triple double of 40 points. Come on, man, that's going to grab your attention right there. So Luka 4-1 definitely has my attention.
Yeah, I still think Joel Embiid at plus 425 is I think there's good value there still. I think Embiid, if the season ended right now, Joel Embiid is your MVP. I truly think that's how the season has gone. I do think Luka is fully in that conversation and SGA right around the corner. It does surprise me how much of a significant favorite Jokic is. That he's been very good. He's obviously one of the greatest players in the world, but this hasn't been a Nikola Jokic year to me so far. There's obviously a ton of basketball left that can change if they go on a run, but Nuggets in the 4th seed at 17-10. Jokic having some of his worst shooting nights that I've ever seen from him over the past few weeks. So for me, that knocks him down a couple pegs. I frankly, out of those 5 that I named, I would put Jokic at 5th on that list. That I think you can make a stronger case for each of Luka, Embiid, Shea, and Giannis as far as the MVP conversation. But plenty of basketball still to be played, so I'm sure we will see these numbers shift greatly throughout.
All right, next game up on the DraftKings card. Let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets and the Utah Jazz. Brooklyn 4-point favorites here on the road in Utah. 234.5 is your total on this one. Last game up where Brooklyn was on Saturday night. They lost to Golden State 124-120. Last time out for the Utah Jazz on Saturday night as well. They got smoked by Sacramento. Jazz don't have a lot of things working in their favor. They do have some good players. I'll give the advantage to Brooklyn on this one. I believe it's their final game on the 5-game road trip here. Maybe they want to end on the right foot here. Utah's going to be, really gritty and playing hard at home, returning to that home floor. I just don't know if they have the studs that if Brooklyn is going to give you their best effort. So give me Brooklyn -4 here. 9-10 tip, 234.5. Sean Barnard, your thoughts?
Yeah, we're on the same page with a lot of this. That I think this is a big Nets win as well. I like the -4 there. And a player prop that I like on the Jazz side is I love Colin Sexton at over 21.5. He's been quietly very good this year. That as a starter this season, averaging 27 points per game on 58.5% shooting, he's seeing more of an opportunity. I'm seeing the trade whispers flying around the Jazz. A report came out today, them wanting 5 first-round picks for Lauri Markkanen. So a little surprising to me that. Maybe that's just a number that they don't want anybody to reach, or maybe that truly is them trying to get a Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert-like return, kick the can down the line a little more and continue rebuilding. I don't think they found these foundational pieces that they have hoped for at this point. Lauri's a guy that I think should be in that conversation. I frankly think he could be good enough, and I had a ton of interest in him from the Sixers perspective, but 5 first-round picks is very rich for my blood. I think all signs in this game specifically point to the Nets continuing to get a win. They're good enough to beat bad teams. They're not quite good enough to elevate to that true contending or be in the conversation for a playoff threat. But the Jazz are a bad team. I think they go in, they take care of business and cover the -4 here.
All right. Next game up on a DK card. Let's talk about the Knicks and the Lakers. Knicks looked really good over the weekend. They beat Phoenix and then got smacked by the Clippers. Still threw up 122, just not playing defense. Lakers are 4-point favorites. I'm going to stay away from this game. Something made me want to take the Knicks, but then I'm like, I didn't last time out the Lakers get embarrassed when they lost to the San Antonio Spurs. Was that the last game that they played, which I completely pulled out on because no Anthony Davis. He was pulled. And they ended up losing 129-115. That was on Friday. So you got a nice little rest. Everybody's healthy. First game back on the home floor in 3 games, all the way back to December the 7th was their last home game. So I think you're going to get the best effort from the Lakers here. If you made me make a selection, I'm going to go with the Lakers -4, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts in this game.
Yeah, I think I go Lakers -4 as well. I flip-flopped a little bit on this one. No Mitchell Robinson for the Knicks. That I do think is a big deal when we talk about the Anthony Davis conversation. Both LeBron and AD listed as game time decisions. I would expect both to play in this one. And Jalen Brunson, I just want to highlight how good that he has been for the Knicks. Coming off that performance against the Suns.
50
50 points, 9 assists, 5 steals, shot 9 of 9 on 3-pointers.
What a
Super
beast.
impressive stuff. Yeah, he's just a winner, man. I'm a huge fan of Jalen Brunson, his game specifically, the way he carries himself, the way it's infectious to his team, everything about him I love. And very funny to me how when that contract was signed, everyone going to how much it's an overpay, what a terrible contract, worst value. And all of a sudden, you look at it now, him making a little over 20 mil a year, that's pretty good value in today's NBA for a guy like Jalen Brunson. So cool how the tables have turned there. But I do think this one is a matchup where the Lakers can just go and kind of beat up on a team, get back in a get right spot. I think the Knicks are good. They're a high floor team. They're going to give them a run for the money, but the 4 points just feels a little low to me. I think they go in and cruise, and Lakers put forth a convincing victory in this one.
All right, final game on the card this evening. Let's talk Sacramento and the Wizards. Wizards got my attention last night as they played a tough game against the Phoenix Suns where they were catching 12.5. And I said the Phoenix Suns aren't good enough to be given that type of number. And I nailed it. They won by 4. They trailed pretty much throughout 3 quarters in that, but the Wizards couldn't make a shot in that 4th quarter, and that was their demise. 112-108 last night, back to back, and now they got to go on the road to Sacramento. Sacramento a little rested here, 12.5-point home favorites. 248 is your total in this one. I like the over in this one. I like Sacramento 12.5-point favorites. Your thoughts, Sean?
Yeah, I think Sacramento comes in and cleans house here. That tough place to play, especially for a team that doesn't have a ton of just bread and butter in their offense. When we talk about the Wizards with Jordan Poole, with Kyle Kuzma, both guys that like to do a little too much at times and is clearly being shown in the win-loss column there. De'Aaron Fox listed as day-to-day, questionable with a shoulder injury. That would be a big time. And if he is out, I'd probably stay away for sure from the minus 12.5 and probably altogether in this game. But the Wizards, I think, are in that same tier of the Detroit Pistons, of a team that I have zero confidence in on a night-to-night basis. I think the Kings are fine. I think they're a little bit better than they have played so far this year, and they will ultimately have a hot streak here. They've been pretty good, so I don't want to hate on them too much. But I do think the minus 12.5 is the play, assuming that De'Aaron Fox plays. And I think that 248 on the over-under just feels a little bit too high for me as well. So I kind of lean towards the under in that direction.
All right, so on the under. Yeah, I think the Wizards just go out there and score probably a $105, and Sacramento blows the doors off them. So it'll be flirting right around that number. It could be a little too high. 248 is just ridiculous. But that's today's NBA, though. We're going back. Hey, a lot of people say they missed the 90s. This is like early 90s, man, 91, 92 with these totals. You're seeing a lot of like these numbers, these games happen. It's like it's the highest scoring game since 1991. You're seeing a lot of that these days. All right, as we always do, Sean Barnard, one thought or one final play. Your best bet on the DraftKings card is what? 11 games to choose from.
From a game perspective, I'll go Clippers minus 3.5.
You know how we work with you. It doesn't have to be a game. It could be side, total, prop, you name it. One winning play.
All right, my one winning play, I'm going to the player prop then. And I hate to bet against the Sixers, but I'm going with the Kobe White over 31.5 points, rebounds, and assists. That he's truly been filling up the stat sheet without Zach LaVine there. I do think it's legit numbers. These aren't just flash in the pan, him getting an extra opportunity. I think this is him taking that progression as a player. So I think that he's going to give Maxey a little bit of a run for his money from the matchup standpoint, or DeAnthony Melton, however the Sixers choose to do that, knocks down a couple shots and overall clears that number.
It's a toss-up for me between the Heat at home and the Mavs on the road. 7.5 with Dallas. I just think Luka's going to ball out this evening.
Yeah.
Give me the 7.5. I'll take Dallas plus 7.5. The fact is that you're looking at a plus 250 money line. That's really high. So maybe yeah. All right. You got to roll with it, man. You're seeing the board clear. Stick to your guns. I'll go with the Mavs plus 7.5 tonight. I think that they keep this close, and I don't think that they're going to win this game, but it's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a 4th quarter, timeouts, free throws, normal nonsense. So give me the Mavs. Let's sweat. Plus 7.5 on the road. Shake things up, and especially an MVP game early in the season. Looking forward to it. As always, Sean Barnard can be found at Sean_Barnard1. And that is the number 1. This is Picks and Roll. Sean, give me a thought on tonight's Monday Night Football game. Final score.
I do think the Eagles get their bounce back despite all the controversy in the defensive side of the ball and everything else, and Jalen Hurts, the sickness, all that. But the bottom line is I think Eagles take care of business. Give me a 27-17 victory for Philadelphia tonight.
The flu game. You're going to see A.J. Brown holding up Jalen Hurts, walking off the sideline. I love it. Yeah, give me the birds as well. Everybody, good luck on your plays. Go Sixers. We'll be back tomorrow. Brand new episode of Picks and Roll.